Someone close to me has their birthday today, so I just want to start with a birthday puzzle before we get to the main topic. Basically, this puzzle was composed by Pal Benko on his 87th birthday. He composed a set of puzzles and for each of the family, each of his family members. Basically, if you observe this, this position has a shape of digit 5. So this puzzle was for his son-in-law, whose age was 51 at that time. And rest also you can later explore the whole set of puzzles. Maybe I can post a link. But this is a simple mate in one puzzle. You can answer quickly, and then we can move to the next topic. Yeah, but a bit carefulness would help. So feel free to unmute and let me know your thoughts.
Well, I'm sorry, is the orientation of the board from White's perspective and it's White to move?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, that's a good question.
Rook A4 mate.
Yeah, this looks like a rook A4 met here.
Yep.
But if you carefully see, we can try to figure out what the last move of black was. Can you figure it out? What the last move of black was?
Last move of black was definitely not, could not have been from B6 because the two kings can't be next to each other.
Okay.
So it must have been from either A4 or E4.
Isn't it the B pawn takes on A7?
B pawn takes on A7. Sorry.
Black's coming down the board.
Oh, it's from White's perspective, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's from White's perspective.
So
Basically, the question lies whose move it is, as someone asked right now. The question is whose move it is.
So it must be black's move.
It must be black's move, yeah. So what do you think must be the move?
So black must take AXB5.
Okay. A takes B5. And then?
To A4 check.
Rook A4 check?
Perhaps rook XA7 mate is better.
Yeah, that's right. So we can do this, like basically, I have not set the position, but you can clearly see that this is the only valid move that black can play now, because it is not possible that the earlier move was by black, it was by some move by white, and then after takes we can just take and it will be a checkmate. Yeah, so feel free to explore other examples of other puzzles, birthday puzzles by Paul Benko. Basically, if you have explored before the Benko opening or Benko's gambit or Benoni defense, then I think there is a good chance you have come across Paul Benko. Okay, let's move on to the main topic, which is intro to the Unusual Sicilian. Let's do E4, C5. This from this we know that we are entering a Sicilian variation. Knight to F3, E6, then D4, C takes D4, Knight takes D4, and then what are the usual moves that black plays while playing Sicilian? Feel free to speak out, unmute and speak out. Like what could be the options that black can play here? Usually,
I think knight F6,
Knight
C5,
C5.
knight C6, queen C7.
okay, someone said knight C6. Someone said
Yep.
knight F6.
F6.
Okay.
Queen C7.
A6.
A6.
Yep.
Okay. And what else?
D5.
Would you challenge the center with queen pawn to
D5.
D5?
D5. Okay. Awesome. What else?
Queen c7.
Queen c7. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. What else?
Bishop to b4 check.
Bishop to b4 check. Oh, yeah, that's good. And what else?
h5.
h5. h5. Okay. Yeah. So these are good number of moves, and we clearly see that all these are few things which we see a player with the black pieces playing when going for a Sicilian, and these are what we are aware of. And even in, I'm a casual chess player, but these are things which I've seen black do the most. But today we are going for something unusual, and I say it is unusual because we can find less games with this next move, and it is very less known. And basically, the move is bishop to c5. We are going to look for this particular variation and go into depth. So this is easy to prepare. So basically, if you're going for the CA tournaments, upcoming CA tournaments, I would love that you surprise your opponent with this. Uh, it takes very less preparations. Like earlier in the earlier session I took, it was about variations in dragon, like classical dragon, accelerated dragon, hyper accelerated dragon, but we see that it needs good enough preparation. But this, what I'm going to show you today, requires very less preparation. And it's aggressive, easy to play. You can easily neutralize the white's advantage out of the opening. And if white also makes a mistake, then you'll be a pawn or two up, even a minor piece as well. So yeah, we can just try to give it a try. Also, one of my friends suggested that instead of going for multiple variations in the same session, why not try a single thing and go into depth? So incorporating that feedback as well. Yeah. So just to try, let's try to understand the power of this, what this gets into next. So this is a game between George Bottrill and Michael Bassman, and we are looking from white's perspective while black is going to play this unusual Sicilian. Okay, so we know it starts with e4, c5, knight, f3, e6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and bc5. So this is quite a doubtful move. Even I imagine even the George would have thought, we know in most of the time it is possible that the knight just comes to f6 and other moves we earlier discussed, like each one of you guessed. But what is this now? Just George is just trying to figure out what kind of variation is Michael trying to get into. So after this, we see that in the game George just retreats its knight to b3 and moves it back to safety, and attacking this bishop as well at the same time. But we want to save our bishop. We want to keep a strong check on this diagonal, as well as keep some pressure on this f2 pawn. So black retreats the bishop back. Next, simple development moves like knight c3, knight e7. Usually we see that this knight goes to f6 in almost like most of the Sicilian variations, or even like this is a natural square for knight to go to. But here we are going for knight e7. Batsman goes for knight e7, and then here George is trying to keep this knight under a check, so like it's just pinned to the queen, uh, restricting its movement. Batsman goes for castle. Simple development move, bishop e2, and then f5. Suddenly, what is black trying to do? Like most of the pieces are yet to develop, and it's still striking the center. And even like in the early stages of this game, the pawn next to the castle king is moving. Yeah, we see moves like f4 and f5, but it's pretty soon. So what is this exactly? Even George might be confused. Now, what George does in the game is he takes. So basically, this symbol is for mistake, and as we all know, this is a mistake. Like this has been marked with a mistake. Whenever such symbol comes, feel free to unmute and speak out your thoughts, like why is this a mistake, or if this is a mistake, how can black take an advantage of it? Whenever such symbol comes, I can just take a brief pause so that you can think and speak.
So if black takes
Well,
with
you
the rook,
could-
then you'll be attacking the bishop and you'll be attacking the f2 square.
Sorry, couldn't hear you clearly, Matthew.
So if black takes on f5 with the rook,
Okay,
then there's a double attack on the bishop on g4
okay.
and on the pawn f2.
On the f2, yeah, that's interesting.
Couldn't you
Yeah.
just take bishop xf2,
Yeah, that is also a possibility.
followed up with rook x check, picking the bishop back up? And the
Awesome.
pawn-
Yeah, that's awesome. So that happens. This is a mistake because bishop takes f2. This is quite aggressive. Both of the opinions we heard right now were correct, like on the same lines, and this is pretty aggressive on the second one. So bishop takes f2. Now the king in the game took on f2. Then the rook comes, check, forking the bishop as well. Yeah, and then when king moves back, rook takes the bishop. Unusual start. The king has lost its ability to castle, and we see that black is already having an advantage out of the opening. And after this, actually in the game, white resigned. So this is a simple start, less preparation, and we will see something around this. And yeah, it's pretty good start for black. So let's get into some lines of it. We know the drill.
Would it have been any better for white to not take the bishop and just go king to d2?
White to not take the bishop and go to king d2. Yeah, that could have been an option, but still we lost the pawn, and again another pawn will be lost. Yeah, let's say let's try what it suggests. Instead of, like, if we go to d2, of course this pawn will be lost, and maybe some game continues like this. But already out of the opening, white is at huge disadvantage because it has lost pawns.
And you have no good square to retreat the white bishop to either right now.
Yeah, that is the problem, and situation gets cramped because this knight is not doing anything. The king is not so safe, and yeah, this one is under attack.
Yeah, but black's so undeveloped, the king might even be okay. Like if you do bishop to e3, then
Bishop.
trade
No,
bishops.
then bishop takes, pulls the king out, and then you got queen to c6.
Yeah, queen to c6.
And like super trouble now, followed with rook, potentially the rook over next, depending on where the queen goes. I mean, you lose the queen here because rook comes over.
Yeah,
Like goes d5, so you're okay.
Yeah.
The white knight does.
Yeah, it's
so
super
yeah,
bad.
and even we see that engine evaluates this to -9. So this is unusual because white doesn't get any advantage out of the opening and is very unsecure. Like there is no clarity what white should do next, and has to be very careful and can get stuck anywhere, pretty much anywhere. Yeah, good thoughts. Thanks. E4, C5, knight F3, E6, D4, C takes D4, knight takes D4. Sorry. Yeah, so BC5. Now we see a couple of options here. What white could do? White can either go back to knight that goes back to B3, or this. But this is already supported by the queen, so knight can also start with a standard development move like knight C3, something. Okay, let's see knight C3. What happens here? And then immediately into the game, black suddenly starts attacking with his queen. We see that with the move queen b6, strong pressure has been created on the diagonal. Also, the f2 pawn is under the attack, as well as there are two attackers on this particular knight, whereas it just has only one defender. So we can see a couple of different things that white does white can try here. But let's say if white tries knight to e2, this is a mistake. Can you guess why?
Well, it's blocking in the f1 bishop.
E5, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, e5 wins the
Correct.
pawn on f2.
Yeah, as soon as we do e5, this particular knight is attacked, and if this knight moves, this pawn is lost, and king loses its ability to castle as well. So basically, white has a trouble. Yeah. So
I think knight A5 might be a better way to defend.
Knight a4.
knight e4.
Knight A5 in the previous position instead of retreating the knight.
Okay, this one you going
Yep.
here?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. We'll look into that, but yeah, we'll see that variation as well. So clearly, white should not do this mistake, like going to e2. As you said, this is blocking the bishop, and we are in some trouble on the next move. So instead of that, let's say if white tries bishop to e3, which is defending this knight because two defenders, two attackers. But white has to be courageous enough to let this pawn go, because this is undefended right now, and queen can capture it. So white is just trying to uh, save save the situation. So, but as a black, you should not take this free pawn. It's a mistake. Can you tell me why? Do you have some thoughts on this? What could happen? What are the possibilities here that white can try to
I'm
take
gonna
advantage
guess
of this?
knight A5 is good again here. Knight A5, forking the bishop and queen, and if you trade off the bishop, then white's dark square bishop gets into the action.
Okay, so your idea is we can move the knight to a4, forking the queen and the bishop, bishop and the queen. Yeah, that is interesting. So also, like, just the queen can go here and give a check, and then maybe take the knight.
You do c3, and that blocks the check, and everything's covered.
Yeah, c3, but then white lost its pawn, and if it was a mistake, we as a white, we could not take advantage of it.
White has enough development to compensate for the pawn. Like if the knight takes on c5, then he gets a nasty discovered attack with the d4 knight.
Yeah, so these are a couple of ideas, but again, in most of the games, not just this unusual Sicilian or Sicilian variation as such, but what we can try as, like, when queen takes such a pawn, we should take a moment and try to think if this queen can be trapped somehow. Is it possible to trap the queen? So any thoughts along that line? Is it possible to trap this queen?
The difficulty is that the knight on c3 is undefended.
Knight on.
I guess it has to involve knight b5 then, to block off the queen from escaping back the way along the file.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one good thing actually. Like when this knight comes here, we are defending this particular knight, as well as obstructing the queen from escaping from here. So
yeah, also threat to fork the king and rook.
also threat to fork the king and rook. Perfect. Yeah, if the knight goes here later, this is a beautiful fork here. So
three
yes,
threats. We have rook to b1, which traps the queen. We have knight to c7, which wins the rook on a8, and we're also threatening to just take the bishop on c5.
Yeah, bishop. Yeah, we are also threatening to take it on b5. Yeah, so like, let's say if in this situation this bishop is hanging, and let's say even if black is careless here and takes the bishop, this queen gets trapped. There is no way out. So the queen is lost here. So while playing this variation as a black, please do remember that taking this pawn is a mistake. Like, you just don't take it here. Okay, so let's say if after whatever, like bishop comes to e3, we don't take a pawn, we do something else. Let's say we do knight to c6, simple development move, adding a pressure on this knight again. And then white can do a couple of things here. As you suggested before, we can try knight e4, because these two are creating a nuisance and we need to take one of them out. For the same reason, black feels that these two are strong pieces, and I just want to keep them in the game until it is the right time for them to be getting exchanged. Queen, like black tries to give a check and tries to hold this position so that both of them are saved, or waits for the right time to exchange the bishop. Then c3, stopping the check, supporting this knight. So now we see that this is again something unusual. In the Sicilian variations, we don't see the dark squared bishop getting traded so easily, is what I feel. Yeah, but here we are going for a trade, and then yeah, we can go for a trade as well. Like after this trade, we can do e5, basically questioning the queen, and the queen is actually protecting two things here, this pawn and this knight. So queen needs to move back to safety in such a way that this knight is protected, or maybe the queen can try something else as well. uh, but let's say white just tries to uh, exchange the queen and go for the end game. That could be one of the possibilities. Here I think it's playable position from both sides, and I think both are in a good situation uh, to go into the middle game or end game, basically. Yeah. So instead of that, we might see one other thing, like instead of uh, going for the exchange of this bishop, uh, white might just try to develop the pieces, basically going for the knight f6. And here we could see a couple of things. White is trying to attack the queen so that this knight is not anymore under the attack, or this pawn is not pinned because of the check or something. Then basically in such cases, we can just retreat our queen to safety. And then again, it's a playable position for black from here, is what I feel, and not a significant advantage for white out of the opening, I would say. So another thing we could see that after this move, we go for exchange here. If the exchange happens, and we do some simple development moves, we move our queen to the center of the board, protecting this pawn, and even like going for a basically good position. Not the position of black is not that bad as such, or I would say pretty neutral for both sides. Uh, yeah, trying to attack the knight takes. Now here we can exchange the queen, or the pawn which was given up, we can just take this pawn, recover, and yeah, playable position. Another thing is we could see this this particular knight. This we take this knight and see what happens. So let's say the black goes for the exchange of the bishop. Black wins a pawn here, and then take the knight. So if black goes for that particular exchange, so we see that uh, yeah, black is one pawn up here, and queen is free, and like yeah, we can basically develop, and black has an advantage of one pawn straight out of the opening. So another thing we could see is, let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. Uh, I can adjust accordingly. Another thing could be moving this knight, like instead of when this knight is under attack, we could move it to b5 and try to do some fork, or go some here, go here to go to d6, basically to uh, get the check the king and make it lose its ability to castle. So this could be another try, but in this case also we see the bishop exchange is tried, and yeah, after this, like the king goes to the center of the board. It is it is pretty safe for the king to go to the center of the board and still attacking this knight, and we see no immediate threats as such. So it's totally safe for black. But this precise sequence of moves, you see how it can be useful for black as well. So after this check, the king moves back to f8. Basically, don't take this pawn, don't take this knight, basically, because in case you take this knight, this knight can come here and your queen and king will be under a fork. So we can't take this knight with our pawn. We have to move back here. That is what we do. And then the bishop is taken. Now this pawn is unguarded. We can take it, and we are not afraid of queen getting trapped. So while this knight is under attack, knight moves to b5. We give a check, and if just because white is not so careful, we take another pawn over here. So basically, from the opening, we are up 2 pawns here. White has 5 pawns, and black has 7 pawns. So this is a good start for black. If the plan is executed properly, you're 2 pawns up here. So this is good start for black out of the opening. And
Does white
yeah.
have a draw here?
Sorry?
Looks like white has a draw here with queen to d6. And
Queen
then,
to d6.
and knight
Okay.
to c7.
Knight to c7. Okay, but yeah.
Oh no, the knight guards it.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I think in this case we need to, yeah, actually, right. If we try to take the second pawn, this could be a problem. Interesting. Yeah. So how could we avoid that problem? Basically, not by not taking this pawn. Yeah, maybe we can avoid taking the second pawn to save that issue. Or maybe just we can go for the rook movement first, so that we avoid all this. Or maybe king movement itself, or knight to e7.
Maybe queen to c5.
Queen to c5 is also good, but we are, this knight can go and, oh yeah,
Yeah.
the fork
What
is not
about
applicable.
A6? What about A6?
A6?
Mm.
Yeah, A6 basically to drive out the knight. Yeah, that is also a good idea.
Yeah,
But
Sridhar,
yeah,
one question in the starting where in the opening you played b5 to attack the queen.
b5 to attack the queen. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, now from here onwards, how?
Yes, here knight attacks the queen and bishop.
Okay.
Then queen a5 check,
Yes.
c3.
Okay.
Then exchanges and somehow you played b5 in one position.
Okay, okay. This exchange and then b5. Oh, this
No,
exchange and maybe, no?
yeah, no. First knight comes to c6.
Yes. Knight comes to f6 because this pawn needs to be protected, which is under attack. Let's do knight f6 and then this position.
No. In the position where knight c6 is also there.
The position where knight c6 also there. Okay. Got it. So where you're saying this position?
No, queen on a5, knight on c6,
Knight.
and one
Okay.
pawn on c3, and you push b4 to attack the queen.
Okay, let's figure out. Yeah.
Yep.
This.
It's probably
Yes.
2 moves down where you have written 10. 2 lines below this.
2 lines below this?
Yes, below this line. No, where
Okay,
you
this
see. No. Where your cursor is,
one?
just on that particular line where your cursor is there.
This queen
B4.
c7.
B4, yes, before this B4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
before this B4. On the move B4.
Mhm.
Yeah, what about knight takes B4? Pawn takes
What?
B4, queen takes. Yes, knight takes B4.
Mhm.
Pawn takes B4, queen takes B4.
Mhm.
And you do king to e2.
Bishop C3, bishop C3. No. Yes, bishop C3.
Bishop
Then
c3 is
queen
on
takes.
guard. Okay. Bishop
No,
c3 and then
queen takes E4.
queen takes e4. Basically, our queen is here right now, and it takes e4.
But that's not forced. You can move your knight to c3 as well. After
Yeah,
the
knight.
change.
Yeah, to save this pawn.
King to e2. And then you're up a piece.
Yeah, you're up a piece because this sacrifice didn't work out. Because like, yeah. So basically, what? Just to reiterate, we're going for if
Yes.
this,
If
and then
this
this.
takes.
Yeah, you save the pawn as well, and you lost a
No, but
piece.
you got
You
three
don't save the
pieces.
pawn.
E4 is also hanging. 3 pawns for a piece. Is the attack strong on the white king?
Yeah,
See,
third piece you
see,
won't get, right? Or just with this knight you're saying.
yes, this is also hanging. Because if you
Yeah.
defend with the bishop on C3, then queen takes with the check. If you defend with the knight is pinned to the king and you take with the knight with extra pressure on that knight.
Yeah, this is good. White's pieces are active, so it is difficult to create a nuisance here. But yeah, not sure because other pieces are undeveloped. White has an active play and is 2 to 3 pawns enough compensation? Could be, yes. Like position could be playable from both sides. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. In fact, we will see one variations where we try to do this. We'll go through that where it is a favorable condition to do that.
Sure.
Can you show the position after knight takes b4, c takes b4, queen takes b4?
With engine? Knight takes b4. C takes b4.
Takes b4. So now you don't want to block with the queen. You could block with the knight, you could block with the bishop, or you could move the king to e2.
Yeah. But then again, this pawn is lost as he suggests because of this.
Yeah, there's no way to save that pawn.
Yeah, true. Interesting.
I think after the knight blocks and black knight takes the pawn, something like rook c1 would be pretty good, right? Or even trying to exploit the open c file now.
Okay, yeah, actually.
And then you can try bishop
or rook to b1.
Or even rook to b1.
Yeah, I got it. This pawn is on e4 is not hanging because pawn on g2 will hang.
Pawn on g2 will hang.
Like if you play bishop to e2, then the g pawn hangs. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
the g7.
G7, sorry.
Yeah. G7. Okay.
I think you want to wait on that because you don't want X rook to come in, complicate more. But yeah, that's a good idea.
I feel like even though material is even, black is undeveloped, so the attack cannot really succeed.
I think this position is a huge advantage for white actually, because there is no continuation in this. Even though queen has come and done a successful attack, but there is nothing that could come and help it and keep the attack going and continue it. So yeah, but perspective was interesting because loss of 2 pawns, but that's not a good enough compensation for development.
So the interesting thing about that position you just showed is black is up a bunch of pawns for the piece. I mean, he had +3 pawns for the piece. So, white still needs to get castled. I think black could have castled. I mean, back at the position, where you had the knight on c3 and the one we were just reviewing.
Knight on c3.
The position we were just looking at.
After black sacrifices on b4.
Yes.
Oh,
this position. Black is up 3 whole pawns here, right? Like, I mean, he can just hold this position, castle, and then look at playing perhaps D5 quickly to unravel his pieces. But, white's still in the center, the knight's pinned. I think there may be, I'd be interested, to see what a computer would say on this position, because I think it would be, an interesting position to play just from the perspective that black does have 3 pawns.
Yeah.
He can get castled much quicker than white, so he has a little bit of, development advantage here, not a ton. And then I think quickly after that, he could start looking like, again with D5, knight X, if the pawn takes, and perhaps, be able to hold this position or maybe even grind it out in an endgame.
Yeah,
But
true.
interesting. I mean,
I think I know why the black knight taking is losing. I think a rook B1, rook B5 unpins the knight, and then the knight can just exchange, or even just trade. Even
Yeah.
you'll be in a great position.
The
yeah,
queen
but
can
if
also
black's-
retreat back to
black's moved
A5.
right here, though, right? You can't move B1 until black does his next thing.
After rook B1, there's knight X C3.
But
Yeah.
then the queen gets lost.
There's 2 queens.
Isn't an exchange of knight and queens good for white here, because he's got the bishop pair, the active rook on B5 and on B4, and good play?
Yeah, I think in this position, if the queens get exchanged, this is definitely a good position for white, actually. Oh, no, like, yeah. Position wise, but yeah, 3 pawns is.
But this is black to move here.
Right.
Yeah,
So knight takes on E4.
Why would you take? Like, honestly, I think here you would want to look at just castling quickly.
Okay.
And not take immediately, right?
But then if the knight doesn't take, then the bishop takes the knight, and then the king is exposed.
I don't care that the
They
bishop
just
takes the
defend
knight.
pawn.
He takes the knight, you take it back. Now the knight on C3 is pinned.
Then queen somewhere defending it, B3, D3.
Yeah.
C2 even.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting position. Right?
Interesting position also, yeah.
Yeah, it's I've seen, not me, but I've seen some really good players like with 3 extra pawns for a piece, literally just roll the pawns. If you can get them rolling quick enough,
Yeah.
and then, at some point in time, white's either got to sack the piece back or you get mated.
Yeah, true.
Not that I would want to play this in a real long game, but
yeah, we need to practice
clear.
it. It's a casual, actually, like, yeah, definitely needs a prep. You can't play a pawn exchange for a piece maybe in a tournament unless the position is really clear. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll do one thing, like, in the interest of time, we'll cover this part first, and then we want to discuss more about CEA. So maybe I'll do a part 2 of this variation and add a couple of more things which I had cut down, so we can go on even more details there. Let me quickly try this. Let's just try to complete a bit of it in 5 more minutes.
Oh, Shri, yeah, Shri, this is Johnny. You can go for 9 minutes, 2:50 on my time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
no worries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. We can, if you see the knight A4 stuff here, maybe we just try to save both of them until we are in a good position to exchange this bishop. If we exchange this bishop, it is a bit of hole in the positions, like these create a bit of holes in this position. So fairly even position, but yeah, still, as this G7 pawn is under attack, black tries a simple development move, and then if white does C, from here onwards, if you are reaching these kind of positions, from here onwards, white has to be really careful if is unaware of these kind of situations. So bishop D3 is a trouble here for white. So can you guess why?
I think B5 traps the knight because he wanted to retreat the knight to D3.
If b5 is played, we can still safely take the knight to c5 as of now. So yeah, b5 is an interesting idea, but b5 would be too quick. Maybe after a bit of things, then try c5. What could that bit of thing be?
C6.
Knight to c6. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, correct. Actually, because after this, the queen has no suitable positions to go. It has only two places. It could be here or here. If the queen moves here, this knight is lost. And if the queen moves here, let's write out actually. If the queen moves here, it's you can still continue attacking. Like
B5.
let's say d5 is yes,
B5.
d5 b5 b5 because this is a battery here, we can take the pawn, so it's b5, not so good. The pawn will be lost. But if let's say if the queen goes here and we do knight e5, the queen now has to move somewhere. What are the available places? It could be a b3, it could be back to d4, but if moves here, the bishop is lost, the ability to castle is lost, so a piece down. And if moves here, how do we do? Now
Take the bishop.
yeah, take the bishop here and then this. Yeah, so if white is not really careful with this bishop d3 move, it could be a trouble. So yeah,
Also, bishop to d3 blocks the queen retreat to d1, where it would still keep an eye on the knight.
yeah, exactly. So bishop d3 is not a good move. And then we could also see instead of bishop d3, we could also see b3. With this b3 move, white is trying to defend this knight basically, because if the queen moves, two things will be hanging. White is trying to save one of them, like it's just supporting the knight. Doesn't do much, but yeah, knight c6. Basically, whatever white plays at this move, we play knight c6 always. So it is very simple to remember, less preparation. We are attacking the queen. Queen retreats back to safety, castles. Now again, bishop d3 is being tried. So it's a mistake. What do you think if white plays bishop d3? Why is it a mistake? How can we get an advantage of this? Any ideas?
This is interesting. If you do b5, that removes the guard on the c3 square. But then
Perfect.
white has e5, and I'm wondering if that even works.
Yeah, perfect. Actually, if with this b5 move, we are forcing the knight to move somewhere else. It could be here or it could be here. So let's say if it moves here, it's not a good position. Your king is under a check, and yeah, a lot of force. Like, so it's not a good. Even if you try to defend with this, the rook and the knight is lost. If you try to defend with this, this rook is lost. So you're a piece down here again. So not a good idea to move it to e5, sorry, c5. And let's say if the knight comes to b2, again, still the pawn is lost. And if you try to defend with this knight is lost. And if you try to defend with this, cool enough, but still lost a pawn. We can go for exchange, or we can try to bring some other pieces further into the development. Yeah, but position becomes weak for white. So definitely bishop d3 here was a mistake. So if you're playing as a white, remember. And then another variation could be like, instead of we saw bishop d3, we saw b3. Now white is trying f3 here to support this particular pawn. But as we see, whatever white does here, we just go for knight c6. Less stuff to remember. Again, we are attacking the queen. The queen retreats back to safety, also supporting this particular knight. Then we go for center. d5 takes, and this is a playable position on both sides. I think could be a position with advantage for black as well in this case. Yeah, and also we could see that instead of b3, bd3, or f3, knight tries knight c5, a bit more ambitious stuff, trying for an attack, trying to coordinate the queen and the knight here. So whatever white does here, we go for knight c6. So queen retreats back to safety, castles, simple development move, and then d5. We go again for center. So this could be another playable position, pretty good for black, equally on both sides, but nothing that white would get any advantage out of the opening. So here, basically, instead of retreating back, we could also see queen going to d6. So it's a mistake here. Do you think it is a mistake? What could be the what could black play here to take an advantage out of this? Basically, in the interest of time, let me answer it quickly. If we go for b6, it could create some troubles for white. White retreats back. Let's say the knight goes to bishop, knight goes to b3, then it is an attack on queen. But white can do some simple stuff here. Instead of we can do some simple stuff here. Basically, get the queen exchanged and go for an endgame. That could be one possibility, and it will be a fair game. But here in this case, if instead of retreating the knight back, if white tries something like this, it could be a mistake. It could be a mistake. As someone pointed out, the earlier idea that this knight takes, and if you see here, white is already down some pawns. Like we have 7 here, black has 7, white has 5 pawns. And then if, let's say, wherever the king moves, or basically we can just take stake. Yeah. So this is good enough compensation for black out of this opening, and it can give a fairly good advantage. So I see that it is 1250. Let me stop here. We have some more stuff to cover. Maybe I'll create a part 2 for this and add some more content that I had shot down earlier. Thank you. Hope it was helpful.
Thank you, Shri. This was super
Great
helpful.
analysis.
Really cool. Really cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing the study.